Oh, that's right. We're right here. It is 4:06 in the afternoon, and I have a real treat for you today. We have Diane Belsom. She is the head of the Lawrence Tea Party over there. She's agreed to come talk to us this afternoon. She has had problems getting that, what is it, that 504?
501c4.
501c4. That's exempt so that she could raise money and not have to tax it and put it out there to help get a word out. She's had problems with that. She just was up in Washington, D.C. about a week ago, standing beside Michelle Bachmann. How did that feel, Diane?
Oh, it was a really amazing experience. And, Michelle shook my hand when I got there and said, okay, we want you to stand right here. And it was right up at the front. And she said, we have you speaking pretty early on. And there was probably, 50 to 75 major news media people there with their cameras all trained on us. And so first, she spoke, and Senator Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul and Ted Cruz and a few others, and then I spoke and just explained briefly my situation with the IRS and the problems we've been having, and so it was very, very cool.
And I understand that Congressman Jeff Duncan held your purse while you spoke.
Yes, he did. He was standing right next to me, and I was like, oh gosh, why did I bring this purse? What am I going to do with it? He said, I'll hold your bag for you, and he did. So
pretty neat.
Yes, it was very neat.
Well, what was the mood up there when, I know it was all electric and everything, but what was the mood amongst the people there? I mean, here we have this big IRS scandal. We're getting ready to have the IRS overlook Obamacare. What was the mood there?
You mean like the reporters, or just...
No, the senators, the Congress people. What was the mood?
The people who spoke. Well, I think everybody realized the gravity of the situation, which this is really, really serious when your government is using an arm of the government, the IRS, to target people based on their political views, and that just is so contrary to everything America stands for with the First Amendment and our free speech.
So I guess it was pretty electric. How did you feel that you said you talked to CNN afterwards?
Yes.
How was it to be interviewed by some of the big dogs with CNN and all these people?
Yeah, I don't know if they ever aired the little clip they did with me, but they, I've been interviewed by Fox Carolina and Channel 7 and Channel 4 and different interviews, so I guess I didn't really think too much about it.
There was a time where you did, though, wasn't there?
Yeah, when I first started with the Tea Party movement, I'm just a homeschool mom, a wife, a concerned citizen. I just was somebody who said, I'm really concerned about the direction our country is going in, and I am going to stand up and say I'm not going along with this and do what I can to fight back against a direction for our country that I think is very wrong. And when I first started this, I was terrified to do media things and radio interviews and all that. But I've had to do so much of it that I've gotten a little more comfortable.
Absolutely. So, Diane, you were telling me you found a letter that you had written when, tell us a little bit about this letter that you wrote.
Oh, well, I just, in thinking about how long have I been involved with politics? I mean, certainly with the Tea Party, since I've been involved with that, that's kind of like a full-time unpaid job with what I do now. But, I've always done things like writing letters to the editor or writing to our elected officials and so forth. And I was going through some old papers, and I found a letter I had sent to George Bush the First, and that's back before computers, so it was a typewritten letter. And I had saved a copy, and I had sent him a letter saying, please oppose socialized health care. So this is something that's been an issue for a while, obviously.
And it even goes back even further than that, because you're from South Florida. You were telling me about how you bought an old house. Tell us about that. I think this is fascinating stuff.
Oh, well, my husband's really into old houses, and there was a house there that it had been abandoned. The lady who lived there had died, and the house sat empty for several years, and my husband said, I wonder what's going to happen to that house. And I think it was up for sale or something, or there was some sign. And as it turned out, it was going to be bulldozed. So he arranged to, quote, purchase the house for $1, so you had to have a sale, and then we paid to have it moved, and we purchased a lot nearby, and we moved it to this other lot, and then, restored the house.
But you found some documents.
Yeah, the house had this entire contents in there, and we had to throw away a lot of stuff because there was termites, and it was a mess in there. But there were some things that were salvageable, and the owner of the house, the original owner, was a doctor, and he had built the house in 1913 in South Florida. And there was a picture he had in there that we actually have it framed hanging on our wall right now, but it shows a doctor with a patient in the bed, and the caption is, "Do you want the government, getting between you and your doctor?" And then it had a whole little blurb about that. And I thought that was so interesting because it has to be from the 40s or 50s.
Right.
So
we've been dealing with this for a long time.
Yes, in terms of the effort to socialize medicine, that certainly dates back for quite a while.
Absolutely. Well, I just thought that was fascinating because here we are in 2013 dealing with the same thing. The only problem is Obamacare is coming down the pike here. And although Congress has repealed it, I think 30 some times, in fact, just in the last couple of weeks, it at this moment doesn't look like it can be stopped. What do you think, Diane?
It's hard to say. The House of Representatives has been the one doing the vote. The Senate will not take it up.
It won't even come for a vote, will it?
I don't think so. I don't think so. So that's a real problem as far as that goes. I think, again, it just takes as more people understand what Obamacare is, and the full force really still hasn't hit. But the problem is, by the time it really all hits, it's harder. I mean, you need to stop it now before it gets more and more entrenched. I think that would be easier. So if people need to really wake up and see what they could do to stop this by putting pressure on their representatives. Now, on the state level, the House passed a bill. It's Bill H3101. And if you're listening, you might want to write that down because I'm going to give you a phone number to call in a minute. But they passed this bill which would nullify Obamacare. And so far, I mean, Governor Nikki Haley has done a great job with saying we're not having the health care exchange and we're not expanding Medicaid. But those are only a small portion of the whole Obamacare bill, which is 2,200 pages, and now an additional 20,000 pages of regulations. Now, how anybody thinks we can possibly implement this is beyond, I don't know. But at any rate, the bill was passed by the House, sent over to the Senate, and is now stuck in a committee that's chaired by Senator Leatherman. And we need people to call Senator Leatherman and tell him we want this bill brought out, Bill H3101. We want it brought out for a vote on the Senate floor because we don't want Obamacare in our state. So the phone number to call him is 803-212-6640. And you can also look him up online. If you just put Hugh Leatherman into your search engine, you should be able to find him. But I'll tell you one more time, 803-212-6640.
The interesting thing about that is there is only a couple of weeks left to this session.
Right.
So if something isn't brought to the floor now, it's not going to happen.
Right, that's exactly right. And so it's urgent that you call, today or tomorrow, call right away. I think even you can call after hours and leave a message maybe. I know I've called at weird times, but call and tell them you want Obamacare stopped. The only thing that's going to get their attention is enough people making noise about this.
Well, now, has any other states voted for this?
I don't think so. I think some others have had legislation maybe in the works too, but the good thing is if South Carolina were to do this, we have a real opportunity to lead the way for the country, because I think if we pass this, you will have other states who will say, okay, yeah, we're going to pass the same thing. And that's what you need. You need more people. We need to all stand together and say, we're not going to comply with this. This whole thing is completely unworkable. It's a train wreck. Even Senator Max Baucus, who's a Democrat, said this Obamacare thing is a train wreck. And he voted for it.
I think Sebelius is even questioning how she can implement with all the requirements.
Right. I mean, it's a total nightmare. And really, I don't know if people have connected the dots, but the reason their health care premiums are skyrocketing is because of Obamacare. And now I'm even seeing that your health care premiums are going to double by 100%. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And the reason also, people are getting less hours or getting laid off, or there's less
People are
jobs
becoming
available.
part-time because this is for full-time employees.
Right,
Exactly.
right. And so this is having a very negative effect. We were already struggling as far as people out of work, and so now this is making it much worse. So this whole thing is bad legislation, and it's having a very bad effect on our country. And I think next year is when it kicks in with, you're going to get fined if you haven't purchased health insurance and so on. And I was on a subcommittee here the subcommittee in Columbia about 2 years ago, and the committee was to determine should we implement the healthcare exchange in South Carolina. And we had an attorney come in and explain how this exchange thing would work. And there was a very depressed silence when she finished speaking, because it was like, okay, we're going to base the subsidy, if you get a subsidy, we'll base it on your income for last year. And so it's this whole nightmare of trying to figure out, think of our taxes right now are a nightmare, and now add to that, and then, but then if you ended up making more money this year than you made last year, you could actually get to the end of the year and owe money. And it's just the whole thing.
That seems to be the way it goes. Everybody just keeps owing money to the government.
Right.
Hey, I tell you what, let's hear a word from our sponsors. We'll be right back. Don't you go away. If you got a question for Diane, just give us a call, 229-7984. That's 229-7984. We'll be right back. That's right. We're right back here, Sharp Facets Gallery. We have Diane Belsom with us here today. She is the head of the Tea Party over there in Lawrence County. And I remember you just telling me that Greenwood may be getting ready to get a little more active here, huh?
I hope so, yeah. When the first year I had done, we did our first Tea Party rally in Lawrence in 2009, and I had met up with some of the people from Greenwood that started their group, and it was Tea Party of the Lakelands. And I was driving over here to Greenwood for a couple of months, and we were planning another rally, which we did that was like the end of June maybe. And so I got to know some of the Greenwood people at that time, which was really nice. And so unfortunately, the group kind of went by the way. I think it just, the person who was leading it had to step back, and then, you have to have someone who can lead it. So if you're out there listening, Greenwood needs to get a Tea Party going again, and I would be glad to meet with you and help you you get that going. And I did hear from one of the old Tea Party of the Lakeland members who emailed me recently and said, yeah, we're interested, maybe some people who want to get this started again, so give me your email address. So I did. So, I haven't heard back yet, but I hope to hear.
I think that's something that you're right. You said it's a full-time, non-paid job, right?
Right. Yeah. It is very time-consuming to really do it. As I do it right, hopefully I'm doing it right. But
how many members do you have over there in Lawrence, roughly?
I'd say, we do a paid membership, and we instituted that just because we didn't want people to just okay, we're going to vote on something tonight, and 100 people bus in from somewhere else that have never come to vote, just to vote and try to change things, So we said you need to join, and we set a $30 family and $20 individual dues, which is actually why we have this whole IRS thing, because when you have dues, then you have to get involved with the IRS. But I'm sorry, what was your original question? I think I just...
how many members?
How many members?
Roughly.
So it renews every year. I'd say, I haven't counted recently, maybe around 60 paid members. And we have several hundred people on our email list. And we usually at our meetings have about 40 to 50 people who show up. So
that's pretty good. Lawrence is a small area, so that's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Now, you're getting, one of the things I did want to get out there for you is you're getting ready to have, in June,
yes.
What's going to be happening there?
Oh, this coming Monday, in fact, it's June 3rd. We're having a pro-Second Amendment rally. So we're very excited about this.
We're going to have gun toting?
Well, I don't know. But we wanted to do something to basically highlight the situation right now with Washington is trying to pass a lot of legislation to restrict our gun rights. And we wanted to do something to say, hey, we support our Second Amendment rights, we're standing up against this, and that's not acceptable. So we have one of our speakers is going to be a concealed weapons permit expert who is going to talk about the laws in South Carolina, because one of our members said, hey, I'd like to know what exactly are the laws, and then what about reciprocity with other states?
Sure.
And so he's going to be talking about that. And then Senator Lee Bright from Spartanburg, he is the sponsor or the author, however you say it, of the constitutional carry bill that they've been working on this legislative session. So he is going to be speaking. And then for Lawrence, we have Senator Danny Verdin and Representative Mike Pitts and Representative Mark Willis are speaking. And also we have the sheriff from Spartanburg County. He is also going to be a speaker. So we're excited about that. It's 6 o'clock. We're having it in the Capitol Theater. Let me give you the address on that. It's 104 South Public Square in Lawrence, which is actually...
What time is it?
It's 6 o'clock. We're going to do like a little protest on the sidewalk out front. So you can bring a sign with your statement. You know, you can have my gun when you cry for my cold dead hands, or whatever you want to say. And you know, and we're hoping to have some vendors out there. One of our other members is working on that, so I'm not sure how many we'll have, but you know, some vendors with some things. And then we'll go in at 7 and have the speakers and the rest of the rally.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's terrific. You know, I think that it is a statement just to stand up and do something. Whether we can be successful or not is not the question. It's the question that we get out there and do something. I think for too long people have sat on the sidelines. I know until I started doing this, my philosophy on our government was, well, I may not like everything that they're doing, but it's not hurting me.
Right, right, yeah.
And that has changed a lot, particularly since I got involved with doing the radio and seeing what's happening everywhere.
That's right, that's right. I really do feel like our country is going in a very bad direction, and I feel like our freedoms are slipping away, and the time to speak out is now. You know, it can be a little intimidating to kind of take on the IRS, because you're like, well, what next will they do? Are they going to start trying to personally audit you or other, people in our group or whatnot? But if you don't speak out now, your time to speak out may come and go, and it'll be too late.
Absolutely. So I think this is excellent. Now, not only are you interested in the IRS and stopping Obamacare, but the idea of limited government, the idea of fiscal responsibility, even the fair tax. You'll support fair tax.
Yeah, yeah.
What is fair tax? We've got about 3 or 4 minutes before we go to the news. Diane.
Oh, okay. Well, it eliminates the income tax, which would be nice, and it's basically more like a sales tax. So, and it has a prebate.
So we wouldn't need the IRS, maybe?
Yeah, I don't think it would. Yeah.
Okay, that's a twofer then.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even before this whole IRS scandal broke, I mean, does anybody really like the IRS, So, so, and it has a prebate, and it would send out, because, realizing you have to pay tax on necessities like food and those sort of things, it gives you like a check at the beginning of each month to help cover that tax, and then so that's kind of a way to even it out a little bit.
But people that spend more get taxed more because they're paying the fair tax on the items that they're buying. So if you don't buy anything, you don't pay any tax. I mean, literally. If you can get by without buying anything.
Yeah.
Not going to happen, folks. But anyways,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think there's a lot to be said for that. I think I had Congressman Jeff Duncan on last week, and of course he was saying that a lot of people would like when they go home and lay their head down on their pillow that they know they don't owe the IRS any more money. They paid it today.
I know, that's right.
So those are some of the issues that are out there. And of course, we're going to be talking a little bit about, when we come back, some constitutional education. One of the things, Diane, that I find amazing, and maybe as a homeschooler you've been able to get around that, but the fact that school doesn't teach civics.
Yeah.
And what do you think about that?
Well, to be honest, I don't believe it is by accident. I believe it is by design. And if you look at the history of what the progressives have been trying to do in our country with, they want education dumbed down. They really don't want citizens who can think critically and understand the issues. And I think this is a purposeful thing that has been done to our educational system.
Wow, that's scary, isn't it?
Yes, it's very scary.
It is scary.
It is.
So we're going to be talking about more about those issues. We're going to be talking about the academy. I mean, we have Diane Belsom. She is the head of the Lawrence Tea Party, and she's going to be talking to us more. Certainly hope, Diane, let's give out that number to Hugh Leatherman. If you don't want to have Obamacare here in the state, the Senate is in committee taking it up. What's that number to call?
It's 803-212-6640.
That's right, and you need to do it today, you need to do it tomorrow, because guess what, folks? The end of session is very near, and if they don't take it up, guess what? It'll be another year, folks, and then it could be too late. Hey, I am Ann Eller right here at WCRS. We'll be back after the news.
Arg, are you a pirate or a pack rat? Do you have a vacation of a lifetime sitting in the attic? Or a college tuition hung on a wall? Or is a fabulous retirement hidden in your jewelry box? Bring those items to Sharp Facets Gallery. We can establish value and buy from you or sell for you. And so ends another chapter at Sharp Facets Gallery, 72 Bypass, and on the web, sharpfacets.com.
That's right. I'm here, right back here with you. I'm Ann Eller, 4:35 in the afternoon. I am here with Diane Belsom. She is the president of the Lawrence County Tea Party right here. You know, Diane, there are so many ways that we could talk about so many different issues. We were talking about off the air. You know, one of my questions is, and this is a question that comes up, there's a lot of liberals out there saying that the Constitution, how could people that wrote this over 200 years ago be relevant with today? You know, as a Tea Party president, what do you have to say?
Well, the Founding Fathers knew what they were doing. They had been under a tyrannical government, and they understood the principles of freedom. And that's what they gave us with the Constitution. And I think that people who would say we need to get rid of the Constitution are people who really don't want us to live in a free society anymore. Because the Constitution provides the checks and balances necessary to prevent a tyrannical government.
And how did we get to where we were today, Diane? I mean, I just got to ask this because it just seems like government, this wasn't overnight that we became this way.
Mm-hmm. To be honest with you, having studied this out a fair amount, the whole progressive movement in America has been going on for years and years. And their goal is to completely redefine and reshape what our American society is. And none of this happened by accident. This has been a concerted effort by certain individuals in high places that have continued to propagate and get other people put into these positions to implement this change. I mean, you hear terms like a new world order, and that is what some people are actively working towards.
That's kind of scary, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, I do. And that's why I feel like we can't just be ignorant. We need to understand what is going on, and we need to stand up and say we're not going along with this.
You know, Diane, you have one teenage daughter. Is she involved in politics? I mean, in understanding what's going on? Because I think that's another issue is our young people.
And the first Tea Party rally we did in 2009, the debt was at $12 trillion when Obama took office. It is now at $16 trillion. I mean, every rally we do one every year, and it's always like the debt has gone up another $1 trillion. And at some point, I mean, this is unsustainable, you know, and the younger people are the ones who are going to be stuck dealing with this debt, and they're also going to be stuck with the loss of freedoms and living in this kind of crap society that we have coming if people don't get a grip and make some efforts to turn things around.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. But how can things change? I mean, you know, we do have Congress people, we do have senators there. They've been fighting the fight, and it doesn't really seem like, are we gaining any ground?
Yeah. I think right now, you know, the Tea Party had a big impact on the 2010 elections, and that was helpful in that the House was retaken, because when Obama first took office, we had a Democrat president and Democrat House and Senate majorities, and that was very scary. At least when 2010 came, we were able to get control of the House, and that has put the brakes on a lot of this. It's helped. We're still outnumbered. So it really takes people getting more involved to understand what is going on, paying attention, to say, oh, well, I go and I vote, so I've done my duty. Were you an informed voter? Did you even know anything about these candidates, or did you just go vote straight party because that's what you always do? People need to get more educated, and that's what we try to do with our Tea Party group, because we vet the candidates. We posted last election. We posted the videotapes so people could go watch them, and we had candidate forums. We tried to help people have exposure to here's what the candidates are and what they believe.
Sure.
So I think it takes involvement, and you can't just sit home watching TV and think that things are going to change. And who's what's going on with American Idol, but you have no clue with some of these government things. You've got to start paying attention and get involved, and that's what the Tea Party is, a great vehicle for doing that.
Absolutely. But some of the problems that we've seen out there, we have the GA, the Department of Government Services, where we just moved one person to another office.
Right.
We don't seem to really solve the problem. They
Yeah.
just seem to move people around.
Yeah.
From my perspective, Congress, they are in the majority, but they don't seem to fire the gun. There are certain ones that want to, but they're held back, and I don't know whether it is Congressman Boehner or what the problem is, but they don't go all the way through. It's like they pull right up to the line, and then they pull back.
Well, again, as far as true conservatives, I do think they're outnumbered in the House. You do have a lot of moderates, and in the Senate as well. Lindsey Graham is a moderate progressive Republican. He is not a conservative. And he is somebody that should be replaced with someone who is a true conservative if you want to make some progress.
Well, what do you think? What do you think, though, when you put true conservatives and true liberal progressives in the same room? Can you get anything done?
Well,
I think that's a question.
Well, it is, but I think the problem is that you're running into. Maybe not, but at this point, the ideologies are so disparate.
Sure.
That to find common ground, I think, is difficult. So
we either need to have all conservative or all progressive. Is that what you would say?
I think, in other words, you have to determine what are your values and start trying to understand the people you're voting for, what their values are, and making better choices, or becoming a candidate yourself. We need better candidates.
Are you thinking about becoming a candidate, Diane?
Well, I guess I've thought about it. It's not something I really want to do per se, but I might do it sometime just because I feel like somebody needs to do it. Yeah. So at some point I might. We'll see.
You are brave. You are brave if you do this. You are brave. I would want to put myself out there. I love my job. I love talking on the radio. I love presenting all the sides.
Yeah.
But to put yourself out there, that's going to be pretty. That would be pretty tough. But kudos to anybody that does, and anybody listening out here that does. My hat is off to you. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So we have, fiscal responsibility. I think, isn't to me that is one of the big key issues. Mm-hmm. As a country, we all want to help those.
Right.
But our fiscal responsibility is just out there.
Yeah.
They keep talking about we've got to start taking care of some of the entitlements if we are going to take care of it. Where does the Tea Party fall on that?
Well, you mean entitlements or...
Entitlements and fiscal responsibility and entitlements kind of go together, don't they?
Yeah, because almost half of the federal budget, I think, goes for, quote, entitlements. Although, in a sense, when you've paid into Social Security all your life, I don't know if I'd really classify that, and Medicare, too, if that's really an entitlement. But I think that there's solutions out there for reforming the system, and I think that that's what should be looked at. Certainly the path right now, if you do nothing, those programs are going to be bankrupt fairly soon. The money, they're out of money. I mean, right now we're printing money to pay for things, and we have this $16 trillion debt. I mean,
oh, come on, Diane. We saved a little money. We won't be having that budget discussion raising the debt ceiling quite as soon as we thought.
Yeah. I think that the spending is totally out of control, and I don't believe Congress has even passed a budget. The Senate has not passed a budget since Barack Obama was elected.
Oh yes, they did pass one because
Did
they
they
wouldn't get
finally?
paid. They wouldn't get paid if they didn't pass a budget. So they passed a budget just to be able to get paid.
Okay,
Yes.
because I think it was like at least his first term they never passed
Right.
it.
They just
so-
passed it in the spring here, so
Okay.
they could get paid.
Oh my goodness!
I
Wow.
mean, yeah. There you go.
I mean, ordinary
And that
Americans, we have to live on a budget. We can't just spend money we don't have and then print money to pay for things and whatnot.
But here's the question, Diane.
Mm-hmm.
The Senate passed one. The House passed one. Has that even been a subject of discussion lately?
I haven't heard any. I
No.
didn't even know. I haven't heard about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, they're not even, because we have all these other scandals that we should say that are
Right.
out there right now with the IRS,
Yeah.
Benghazi, and then the AP press issue. So
Right.
when we come back, we're going to talk about some of these scandals and try to get Diane's take on it. So if you have a question for her, don't hesitate to pick up that phone, 229-7984. That's 229-7984. We'll be right back. All right, we're right back here, Sharp Facets Gallery. Yes, I'm here with Diane Belsom. She is the president of the Lawrence County Tea Party. And we were talking about earlier in the show trying to stop Obamacare here in South Carolina. Now, there's a bill. You want to go through that and just give that telephone number out for us again?
Sure. Yeah, Bill H3101, and it was passed by the House. It will nullify Obamacare in South Carolina. But it's stuck in a Senate committee right now, chaired by Senator Hugh Leatherman. So we need everybody to call Hugh Leatherman and tell him you want this bill brought out of the committee and voted on by the Senate. And his phone number is 803-212-6640.
So if you'd like to give him a call, that would be a good thing. The only problem with that, though, that I was just thinking about, that's not going to stop the rates of insurance going up, is it?
Well,
Probably
you
not.
mean
Like
our premiums that are
right.
going up?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's hard to see what the impact will be. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about, it would be great to be able to do that. But
Yeah.
would there really be any effect other than it wouldn't be in South Carolina? So
Yeah, I think just some of the things like being forced to buy health insurance and I would assume, if it's nullifying the law, I mean, you wouldn't be subject to
fines.
the work, like if you work more than 30
29 hours. I
Yeah,
think,
so you companies could hire, they wouldn't have to worry about that. So I think that some benefits that way. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, if you will call Hugh Leatherman, because they are coming down. I think they've only got about 2 more weeks left of
Yeah.
session here. So if it's going to make it out, 803-212-6640. That's 803-212-6640. You can also call and, call them tonight if you want. Leave a message on the answering machine. I'm sure they'll get it. So check that out. So that's one issue on Obamacare. You, of course, were in Washington, D.C. for the IRS. Now, what has happened? Have you gotten any letter like saying, oh, yes, Diane, we just overlooked you and you're getting your status here?
No, and what happened was we filed for a 501c4 status with the IRS back in June of 2010. So that is almost 3 years ago. I mean, we're like a week short of 3 years ago that I filed. And this was something I was told. I mean, when I started doing the Tea Party, I didn't really know what I was doing. So some of the other groups said, hey, what you need to do is you file with the state to incorporate, which I did, and then you file with the IRS for 501c4 status. Churches are usually like a 501c3, but a 501c4 enables you to be involved with, political things. So we did that, and after a year, I'd heard nothing So I called them and said, well, what's the status? And they were like, well, your case is still pending. So I said, okay.
If
well,
only they should move so slow when they're coming after you.
I know. And I found out since then that the average turnaround time for these cases is usually like 3 to 6 months.
Sure.
And I'm still waiting for 3 years. So then I said, well, I guess I don't need to do anything then, right? And he said, oh, no, you still need to file a tax return every year. So we've been filing the tax returns. So then in September of 2012, suspiciously right before the election, we get a letter from them saying, well, we need more information to process your application or whatever, and a lengthy list of questions that they wanted answered. And I was like, oh my gosh, this will take me hours to try to come up with all these details they're asking for.
Like what type of questions that
Well,
would be?
yeah, I mean, we'd had a candidate forum, and they said, well, provide us with, like every single candidate, what their, what office they were running for, their name, the videos we took of them, were they edited in any way, and a list of questions you asked each candidate, and if you sent them a written invitation to participate, provide a copy of that. I mean, just stupid
Stuff that shouldn't be none of your business.
Right.
Mind your own business.
Right,
Yes.
right. And then they wanted copies, we said, well, if you have a Facebook group, we want copies of pages from that. And our Facebook group is actually a closed private group, just because it used to be open. We'd had some people giving us a hard time, so
Right.
we'd made it closed. So but I had to go through, and people make comments on that Facebook group, not expecting the IRS to be reading their political comments. So I went through and lined out everybody's name and anything that could identify them, so their confidentiality was protected. But we sent the original request in by the end of December. Then they came back and said we need more information. So then I had to send copies of emails I'd sent out to our group, and that's when we sent the Facebook page. I think maybe we sent more Facebook pages. We'd already sent them some. We sent them more, and more information. And then that was all sent in March 5th of this year, and there has been silence.
Silence.
Nothing. And so the ACLJ, their American Center for Law and Justice, I already knew Tea Party groups were being targeted, because I'd been on a phone call with Tea Party Patriots, that was groups all around the country, and we talked about the fact Tea Party groups are being targeted by these IRS requests. And so I knew the ACLJ was representing these groups for free. So as soon as I got the letter, I contacted them, and they took my case on. So they dealt with the IRS. So everything went through them, which was really helpful. So then they had given the IRS a deadline, 2 weeks ago, and said, okay, we want the rest of these groups, an answer. And they gave them a deadline of Friday 2 weeks ago, and they did not respond.
The IRS did.
The IRS. And so now we have, ACLJ will be filing a lawsuit tomorrow, and our group will be on that lawsuit.
How many groups are in that? Do you have any idea?
Yeah,
Diane?
I think 15 to 20 groups are, as to my knowledge, on the ACLJ lawsuit.
And this is across the country, or
Yeah.
southeast?
Yeah.
Or
Oh yeah, yeah,
across the country.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. So the thing is, it's from having looked into it, everything we do falls under a 501c4 organization. But if we don't, then just tell us no. I mean, this is ridiculous that after 3 years we haven't been told one way or the other.
Absolutely. So this will start then the loss process.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody is anticipating that the IRS will just roll over and say, "Okay, here you go. You got your status," are we?
Well, I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. So, what else do you think is really what the Tea Party stands for? I mean, we have a few minutes left here to talk about. What else would you like to bring up?
Well, I think I'd like to say that the Tea Party from the very beginning has been very demonized by the press. We've been called racist, which is totally false. Out of several of our rallies, we've had either black candidates who have spoken or black speakers. And last year for our rally, our keynote speaker was a black conservative, and we had our music at the beginning provided by a local black church. And for people to say this is racist, that really is wrong, because it's nothing to do with race. We're opposed to President Obama's policies, nothing to do with what he looks like. So I think that that's an important point, and a lot of people tend to have a negative impression of the Tea Party because we have been so demonized. But the reality is we stand for smaller government, less taxes, state and national sovereignty, openness and transparency, the rule of law, following our Constitution. And to me, to be painted as some sort of right-wing extremist for that is incredible, actually, because than our founding fathers were. I mean, this is what our country is. We're just saying we want our Constitution followed. You know, these principles that were laid down then. That's what we want. And so I just hope people can maybe take a second look at the Tea Party and look beyond the media bias that's out there and realize we're just ordinary people who love our country, who love freedom, and we're trying to do the right thing.
Absolutely. Well, you know, remember when everybody was sending all the tea bags up there to Washington? I mean, that's when it kind of all started. And, you know, we think back to our country and busting open the containers of tea and everything.
Yeah.
You know, it is right there in front of your faces, folks.
Right.
If you don't go out and look at it, it's your own fault that you don't do something about it, because once your freedoms are gone, they're not going to come back.
That's right. That's right.
I think that is probably the most important thing that you can walk away from. If you enjoy our country, I enjoy being able to talk on the radio. I've very much enjoyed having you here today to talk about issues and everything. We need to maintain and know that our country is the country that we were given. And for those of us that are in that middle age group here, we need to maintain that for the future.
That's right. That's right.
Exactly. Well, Diane Belsom, one more time, you're having a rally coming up next week, next Monday.
Yeah, pro-Second Amendment rally. So if you support our Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms, be there. It's a sidewalk protest starting at 6 p.m. in front of the Capitol Theater in Lawrence. That's 104 South Public Square. And then the speakers start at 7 o'clock. So we'd love to have you.
Absolutely. And Diane, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, how would they go about getting in touch with you?
You can go to our website. It's lawrenceteaparty.org. www.lawrenceteaparty.org.
Okay. And send her a message that way. Greenwood, if you want to get on board with the Tea Party, let's do it. Hey, you know what? This is WCRS right here in Greenwood. Diane Belsom, very nice to have you on the air with us. Thanks for taking time.
Having me.
Absolutely. That's going to do it for us. This is WCRS right here in Greenwood. Bye-bye, everybody.